season of the witch. What sort of demonic creatures lie in wait for us tonight?
Hey! Any meth?
Jesus Christ, crackheads. Couldn't get a cool haunted neighborhood, no. Had to live in a neighborhood with some crackheads. But if I can't go experience the spooks and scares outside, I'll just have to do the next best thing.
Hey, got any meth?
What? No, I don't have any meth, dude. No, I don't have any booze either. Oh, that's just great. Thanks a lot. Get out, dude. Get out. Let's go. Come on. Come on, go. God, thanks a lot. Well, now that's all taken care of, we can finally get down to business and play some spooky games. Question is, which ones though? Hey, skeleton in the corner. What game should we play?
Man, how about these ones?
Oh, jeez. Oh, shit, is that medieval?
Now, I know what you're thinking, but Jake from PurpleFizz.tv, you glorious Herculean specimen, medieval isn't horror? And to that I say, fine. Let's have a look at this here checklist.
Let's see here, skeletons? Got at least one of those. Zombies? It's definitely one or two. Gargoyles? Maybe. An evil sorcerer trying to stop you and bring back an army of the undead? He accidentally resurrects the main protagonist as well by mistake, and the main protagonist has to leave his tomb. The only weapon he's got's an arm that he rips out of his own shoulder. It's oddly specific, but it's got that for sure. Yeah, all checks out. This is a Halloween game.
In a time long ago, there lived in the kingdom of Gallowmere a sorcerer named Xerok. This arrogant, pitiless man hated his fellow citizens for their simple and peaceful ways. So he raised an army of demons and set out to take the realm for his own. The king's champion, Sir Daniel Fortescue, led the militia in the battle against this unholy horde.
Released in my birth year of 1998, Medieval was met with a reception of...
Yeah, but it's not as good as Banjo-Kazooie, let's be honest.
So it's not necessarily up there with the likes of Crash Bandicoot or Spyro the Dragon by any means, but that doesn't mean there isn't plenty to love about the game. In Medieval, you play as the resurrected skeletal corpse of Sir Daniel Fortescue, a highly respected knight back in his day, but sadly... he was too much of a loser to survive even the first wave of attacks against the evil sorcerer Zorok. Now, however many hundreds of years later, Zorok has returned, raising an evil army of the undead to take over the world and get his revenge. However, in a bit of an oversight, Zorok forgets that his old nemesis is included in the, resurrectees. Awakening to a cobweb in his eye and a talking gargoyle ahead, Sir Dan finds out the circumstances of his rebirth, and he sets out on an epic quest that will take almost 9 hours of gameplay. I'm sure it felt longer than that at the time, but I was trying to segue to the gameplay. I was trying to, hey, cut to the gameplay. Cut to the game! That's right, 9 hours may not seem like a long time now, but back in the good old PS1 days at 4 months after my birth, it certainly wasn't anything to sneeze at. Though, admittedly, the length wasn't the issue critics seemed to take. Numerous reviews cited poor controls, namely the weapon switching, which had to be done through a veritable pause menu, and the poor graphical quality. One critic in particular stated that the game's graphics were inferior to another, albeit more popular, game which released a few months prior, Banjo-Kazooie. Ah, remember that? When we cared about graphics? Thankfully, though, Medieval had a relatively successful remake in 2019, which is the footage that you're seeing now. For whatever reason, the remaster didn't sell as well as the original within its first year, though it may have something to do with a more popular release coming out that same day. I'm looking at you, Outer Worlds. I don't want to spoil a lot about the game, as since this isn't a review, more a suggestion, you already know that I like the game or it wouldn't be on this list. But I will say this. For myself personally, the kick-ass art style in the remake, while it ditched the creepier designs in favor of a more kid-friendly Tim Burton-esque cartoon feel, is still an absolute ball to witness. The hidden boss fights, which were added for the benefit of the remake, and the voice lines that are simply the original lines, just uncompressed, are great to listen to, while the music can occasionally get annoying after spending a decent chunk of time searching for a specific hidden room. It's still fantastic. It's a shame that the remake was so heavily slept on, because I've had nothing but a good time with it, and despite its few flaws, it's certainly a Halloween must. There's even a pumpkin boss! That was a good game. But let's see what else we got in this pile. Wait a minute. That's just a bloody piece of paper. It says, go to the computer, dipshit. I've never been one to ignore paper. Let's go. Play Amnesia. Well, that's not very scary.
Don't forget, some things mustn't be forgotten. The shadow hunting me. I must hurry. My name is Daniel. I live in London at Mayfair. What have I done? This is crazy. Don't forget. Don't forget. I must stop him. My name is I am Daniel.
Oh, Amnesia, the pumpkin spice latte of horror games. Everyone knows you, everyone likes you, and everyone has at least tried you. Though, if I'm being honest, you've made me piss myself more than any pumpkin spice latte has. It's hard to talk about a 10-year-old game that everyone and their grandma has played without saying the same stuff everyone else has. So I'm doing it in haiku. Oh my, Amnesia. How you make my bowels move. I just shit myself. But seriously, Amnesia is a beloved horror classic for a reason. As you control Daniel, no, not that one, as he makes his way through the gigantic twisting structure that is Brennenburg Castle, searching for answers. You can feel your heart rate increase with every flicker of the lantern's light, and jump at every unnatural event, all while avoiding the gatherers and other creatures that roam the halls looking to get a taste of your sweet, sweet man meat. You solve fun, though frustrating at times, puzzles, and run like the Usain Bolt pretty much any time you hear a noise. And that's it. That's the game. Seriously, if you've managed to somehow make it this long without playing it, and you enjoy atmospheric horror games, go to Steam and buy it right now. The less I say, the better. I know this one was a bit shorter than the rest, but you'll thank me later. Well, that was all well and good, but I want something with a little bit more action, you know? Something where I can take on hordes of demons, surrounded by gothic architecture and great music. But what about, let's see, what about a game like Blood Bowl? Nightmare Creatures. Nightmare Creatures. Nightmare Creatures was released in September 1997 on the good old PlayStation 1 and November 1998 on the Nintendo 64. While the PS1 version scored better in most every aspect, this is the one that I personally own. I'm not sure why the development cycle for the N64 lasted an entire year longer. especially since on the PlayStation 1 version, there are fully rendered FMV cutscenes. But the 64 version had those removed due to the technical limitations, and were replaced with this sad monstrosity. I know it sounds like I'm dogging on the 64 version, so let's take a look, shall we? Oh, that's not the attack button. Oh, that's not either. Oh, well, shit. I'm not gonna say I was using an emulator to get this footage, but let's just say this wasn't the controller that I was using. Jokes aside though, while certainly not reflective in any of the footage you're going to see here, the controls work well enough, and with the addition of a great combo system and item variety, everything combines together to make you feel like a complete badass. Another thing that makes you feel badass? Knowing you control someone named freaking Ignatius Blackward. Old Ignatius here is a priest with a focus in occult studies in the year 1834, and he discovers a long-lost book written in 1666 by a Mr. Samuel Pepys. In order to discover the meanings of the writings in the book, he sends it to a friend living in the States, who turns up dead, killed by Adam Crowley. And now it's up to Ignatius and Nadia, the daughter of his aforementioned friend, to find Crowley and stop the titular nightmare creatures. If you're the type of person to worry about graphics in a 22-year-old game, I have to say, despite missing a good chunk of the story, seriously it's an infuriating amount, the N64 version has definitely held up better throughout the years. Meanwhile, the PS1 graphics look like the naughty bits of a hentai, but like, all over.
Talk about the combat!
Okay, fine, I'll talk about the combat! There's something simplistic yet satisfying about the game's combat mechanics. Different combos can allow Ignatius to hack off different limbs, or even the heads of enemies, and on the odd occasion you can just straight up cut a dude in half. Different power-ups and items can help spice up the flow of the fight as well, such as proximity mines that blow up when enemies get near them, a torch which sets enemies on fire, a flash bomb that stuns enemies, and a f***ing gun, which is my personal favorite, because if you do it right, you can blow off the monster's head. So yeah, overall, definitely a top Halloween pick of mine. Some aspects of the game have definitely aged better than others, but I've had a great time with this one, including skipping a few nights of working on this video to play it. Whoops. If you have an N64 or a PS1, it isn't too expensive, or if you're a dirty, rotten pirate, you could just... You know, Nightmare Creatures is really fun, but it's been a while since I played Luigi's Mansion. Oh my god! Basement ghosts! Gotta get the vacuum! That was weird! If you've somehow managed to go this long without ever playing Luigi's Mansion, it's a game where Green Mario, Luigi, wins a mansion from a contest that he didn't enter. So he asks Red Luigi, Mario, to meet him at the address so they can check the place out together. But things go a bit awry when Luigi arrives and finds out that Mario is missing. Again. Turns out the Red Cat Plumber went inside his brother's new house before Luigi himself even got the chance to, dick. And he ended up getting kidnapped by ghosts. Now Luigi has to explore his newly acquired haunted home, suck up ghosts into a vacuum gifted to him by a strange-looking fellow named Professor Egad, rescue Mario, and sexually assault furniture.
Oh yeah.
FBI, open up!
While the main goal of the game is to obviously catch the ghosts and save Mario, unlike in most games featuring Mario and Luigi Mario, the coins and cash actually do have significant impact on the end of the game. Well, I say significant. In truth, it just changes a splash card at the end of the game. But it goes through a count of the total amount of cash you've acquired during your time in the Haunted Mansion, and based on that, once the ghosts are gone and Mario has been rescued, the fog clears and where once stood the mansion now stands one of several possible houses, ranging from a tiny pathetic tent on a hill to a luxurious 4-story mansion, or if you're playing the 3DS version of the game, you can also earn the S-Rank Palace. A simple reward for completing the game, but it's satisfying if you're willing to go through the effort to get the maximum amount of cash. As for the meat of the gameplay, catching the ghosts is going to be the majority of your time spent with the game, and it can be pretty fun, if a little frustrating at later points with the introduction of multiple different ghost types. You use the flashlight to surprise them, then suck them up with the Poltergust 3000, a device invented by Professor Egad specifically for the purpose of vacuuming ghosts. Not sure why he would invent that, but I suppose it's a good thing that he did. The music often hits on the right notes too, from tracks like this to this abomination. The musical scores always seem to fit well with what's going on, and even though it covers a wide variety of musical types, everything seems to have its place. Well, we're on the last game in the pile. Don't act like you didn't see this coming. Seriously, how could I make a video on Halloween and horror games and not put this absolute classic on the list? I am of course talking about Silent Hill 2 and not any of the ones that came after. The game begins with James Sunderland searching for his deceased wife,
Mary,
who supposedly sent him a letter from the town of Silent Hill. Generally speaking, I think we all know where this is going, and it ain't someplace good. Upon arriving to Toluca Lake, just outside of Silent Hill, James decides to leave his car, for reasons I won't say, and make his way into town on foot. While on the trail leading to town, he passes through a graveyard and meets a teenager named Laura, who is searching for her mother and seems to be a tad on the mentally unstable side.
I'm looking for my mama. I mean my mother.
James interacts with her multiple times throughout the game, as well as a handful of other well-written characters who, for some reason, have all been linked together to this strange town of Silent Hill. Eventually, James will come across the first enemy in town, a lying figure in a tunnel. This is the first taste of combat the game gives you, and whew boy, it's stiff and a good way to show players early on that maybe, just maybe, fighting isn't always the best way out of a situation, especially since right afterwards the town becomes absolutely infested with these creatures, and it can be difficult to take on more than one at a time. Later on in the game, guns do come into play, and they certainly make things easier, but only if you manage to find the ammunition to actually use them, and use them sparingly. The soundtrack has similar vibes to the way Luigi's Mansion works, in that lots of the musical tracks shouldn't work together in one OST, but once again, they all have their place, and all of them fit perfectly with what's going on, even if more than a few of them are weird mixes of grunge rock, pop punk, and alt rock. As a closing note, it wouldn't be a talk about Silent Hill 2 if I didn't talk about the one thing everybody knows from this game: Pyramid Head. So, here it is. He's terrifying, he swings a big ol' sword, he's a manifestation of guilt and punishment, and he's one of the biggest horror icons of all time. So much so that even people who haven't played the series know who he is and what he looks like. There you go. I talked about Pyramid Head. You happy now?
Yeah! Well, that's all I had time for today. But before I go...
You know, I find a special joy in creepy games. I'm not sure why, but they always resonated with me. Maybe it's the feeling of overcoming something that scares you, or this strange type of calmness you find in moments of respite when there isn't anything trying to eat your face off. I mean, I find meaning in a lot of different games, but horror always seems to be a great escape from my everyday struggles. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. This has been an awesome project to work on. Special thanks to my good friends Johnny Nitpick and Coby Anderson for the voices of the skeleton and the crackhead, respectively. Once again, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and have a happy Halloween.